Okay. It is time. I want to welcome everybody to our VWEC Metaverse Expert Series. And John has put the live stream in the chat if you would like to look at that. I believe both myself and Val are using speakeasies in World as well. So for those of you who are new to us, I've put our website in the chat, and you can find VWEC on many social media channels, including the ones I'm putting in the chat. After our presentation, we will move to the deck for social time for those who want to stay. I'm happy to introduce our Metaverse Expert Series speaker to you today, Friday, February 9th, 2024, Valibrarian Gregg. Dr. Valerie Hill received her PhD in Library and Information Science in 2012. Valibrarian is the director of the Community Virtual Library, supporting the Virtual World Education Consortium. She served as a school librarian for 20 years and taught language arts, teaching information literacy at all grade levels from kindergarten all the way through college. She is currently an information literacy consultant with a research focus on the intersection of information literacy and libraries with virtual worlds and digital culture in our meta-modern era. Today, Val will be talking to us about digital citizenship in the metaverse. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's Valibrarian.
Thank you so much, Marie, and hello, everyone. So as Marie just said, our session today is digital citizenship in the metaverse. But I thought I would start by telling you a little background about myself and why I am in the metaverse. I had a wonderful career, as Marie just mentioned, working in a school library during the part of my career where I spent time as a school librarian for over 20 years. And it was a gorgeous school library where I taught in a K through fifth grade school. Books, stories, writing, literacy was my passion, and the kids simply loved it in this library. And around the turn of the century, technology revolutionized my career. In about 2008, I became the school tech person, the iPad manager, and I began to see apps changing our lives. Teachers began to use technology nonstop, and I was bringing new applications their way for online learning all the time. Now, even before that day, in the early 2000s, I can remember I stood one morning early before anyone arrived in the school, there in my school library, and I looked at all these stacks full of books. And I thought to myself, this is changing. What will this library become? I had this foreshadowing of digital culture, and I knew I needed to research the library of the future. And in 2006, I heard about a virtual world called Second Life, and I learned that pioneer librarians were there. The hierarchy of information toppled. Kindergartners began to come into my school library more comfortable with a mouse than with a pencil. And I remember this one day, a fourth grade girl walked over. She came into the library, and she walked over to the giant dictionary, stood up on the stool. She was there to look up a difficult science word. And we spent time going through the keywords, turning the pages, and we found the word. She turned to me and said, "Wouldn't it be easier to just Google it?" She was right. The dictionary soon became a relic. So I went on to earn my PhD with a focus on changing literacy. And I then went on to teach at the college level. And I remember a college student saying, when she was asked to do some research, she said, "Well, If the article is not online, it really doesn't exist. I'm not going to go all the way to the library. Yes, libraries were changing and the information hierarchy had toppled. I was in awe of how tech was rapidly changing our culture, and I wondered what was going to happen to libraries. How would we find information without the core values of acquisition, cataloging, archival, and respect for high quality materials from accurate subject authorities? Where would the library as a community place, a place of value, be located? Look at this slide. I created this picture in an AI app with the prompt on the idea of the library of the future. Yes, literacy had changed dramatically. The information age brought a flood of information right to our fingertips, literally. Nobody knew what the impact was and what was in store for us all. But one of the biggest factors was the launch of the smartphone. A library was now placed in our pockets. And then came the iPad, and tablets were adopted for education and for business, really for every field. And our eyes became focused on that amazing magical gadget, the phone in our pocket, the library in our pocket, that could take us anywhere. Unfortunately, we were not trained on how to use this powerful pocket computer for best purposes. And children born since that invention will never know a world where their parents' eyes were not glued on it. By the way, this is also an AI picture. That's not a real picture. And I created this picture using the prompt centered on the idea that children sometimes compete with the smartphone for their parents' attention. As digital culture overtook life, digital devices became ubiquitous. And now I highly recommend Sherry Turkle's books on this topic for more on the problems that this created for all of us, leading to an essential need to understand digital citizenship. Look at this next slide. Over 10 years ago, I took this photo. I was riding the bus in Seattle on a gorgeous day, and nobody was looking out the window. Every single person was staring at their digital screen. I was already a Metaverse librarian by this time, and I can remember thinking to myself, whether or not you have an avatar, we all live in virtual spaces. These people are not with me on the bus. Everyone seems to be elsewhere. All of you must certainly realize that most content is what we call born digital, no longer born in print first. And it's not easy to evaluate content that is born digital. My research led me to writing the book Metamodernism and Changing Literacy in 2020. Here in the metaverse, we find amazing simulations and global connectivity that brings exciting learning opportunities. Yet there is a dark side to digital culture. I hope that my talk today illustrates for you the need to understand both the wonders of our age and the problems it presents for the future. I've adopted the term metamodernism to describe our current philosophical era, although that is not yet set in stone. You can look that up later if you're interested. I've also adopted the term meta-literacy to help understand how literacy has changed. And here we are, all of us sitting together in a real place, which we call the metaverse. Meta. Meta, meta, meta. I created this meme using the Marsha Brady, Marsha meme to think about that prefix meta. The metaverse is about or beyond the universe, where one can enter a metaphor of meaning in a simulated 3D computer space. Meta, from the Greek, means after or beyond, and it's an adjective which means more comprehensive or transcending. In modern nomenclature, that prefix meta can also serve as a prefix meaning self-referential, such as a field of study or endeavor. Meta theory being a theory about a theory. Meta mathematics would be mathematical theories about mathematics. And the term metacognition, thinking about our thinking. I entered the metaverse because I saw literacy being revolutionized. Meta, as a concept, led me here because I care about the next generation, how different their lives will be. But meta, as we all know, does not actually mean Facebook. And some of us were rather sad that Facebook took that prefix as the name, implying ownership in some way of the term. And Facebook is not the metaverse. Now, I've told you why I am here, but I also want to be clear that the metaverse is a place. It is not an app. And in this picture, you can see some colleagues at the Community Virtual Library. Maybe you're in that shot. And also over at the VWEC Info Center, where CVL supports and serves as librarians. Oh, apps can be useful, very useful for specific purposes. But apps often provide an endless scroll of incoming information, which I call often disposable media. Scroll, delete, scroll, delete, scroll, delete to infinity. I had a young mother just this week say this phrase, and it shocked me because it goes along with this talk. She said she felt like all she did was she was scrolling her life away. That's how she put it. She fears she's scrolling her life away. The metaverse is a real, albeit virtual, place that is persistent. The Virtual Worlds Education Consortium is striving to understand how to teach and learn here in the metaverse. So let's just consider this question. What can we do to help the next generation? And actually to help us all. Whether you work with very young children or you are an elderly senior or you help elderly people, I do, I work with elderly people often, it's critical that you understand digital citizenship. Because digital citizenship goes hand in hand with changing literacy in digital culture. And this is where we live. Now we're surrounded by apps and screens in our daily life, and literacy is no longer reading and writing. It's so much more. The tools and the formats are as plentiful as the apps ever exploding on the scene. And they're constantly changing. So I choose to be here in the metaverse, as I said, a real place and not an app, to talk with you about digital citizenship today. And if you're watching this recording or you're watching the live stream on YouTube, that's great. But you are not here with us. Those of you that are here in the metaverse at this moment, sitting here at the fireside deck, I'd like for you to pause for a moment and use your camera to zoom in on a nearby friend or colleague or avatar acquaintance. Use your Alt and your left mouse click and zoom in. This place is real, and you're sitting in this space together. So cam around this real space. And now zoom your camera back in on my slide here with all of the apps showing the new literacy skills. We hear so much talk about a networked world, but many of our apps separate us rather than bring us together. So get ready and take a deep breath, because now I'm going to give you an overview of digital citizenship in the metaverse. You may want to take notes in case you have a question later. color wheel is a slide that shows digital citizenship elements on a wheel, and it comes from the DQ Institute. I'm also resing, and Ellie's going to help me pull it forward. I think she may have already done that. My color wheel, and we'll put it right here beside my slide so you can refer to it during the rest of the presentation. This is but one model for digital citizenship, and there are other models, and some of the concepts may have a little bit different terminology or emphasis. Many experts are researching the topic of digital citizenship, and there'll be more on the other models later. I'm using this one because it has a really good overarching umbrella of elements. Digital citizenship covers numerous concepts in digital culture, and I'm going to share a bit about 8 overarching elements. 8 concepts: digital identity, digital rights, digital literacy, digital communication, digital emotional intelligence, digital security, digital safety, and digital use. Now, each one of these 8 elements or concepts could be presented individually as a standalone presentation. So this is a lot of information, I'm sure, for you to be hearing about in one presentation. In fact, I've done presentations on many of these concepts, and nobody could possibly be an expert in them all, as they are ever changing. It's really good, and actually essential, to have a go-to colleague to help you understand these concepts. For example, Eric Moore, a VWEC colleague, is a cybersecurity expert, and he's a colleague of mine who's helped me when I've had questions about cybersecurity. Some of my librarian colleagues are experts in intellectual property or other information topics. The purpose of this VWEC Experts series is to help us all share our own perspectives and areas of expertise so that we can learn from each other. Building a PLN or a PLC, which is a professional learning network, or some call it a professional learning community, that's the only way to survive in digital culture, because you cannot keep up with all of this information alone. Now, as I'm going through the topics, there may be some red flags that are raised, red flag concerns. So I told you to have a pen or paper or pencil near you. Jot down a concern if it comes to mind, something that causes you a little emotional alarm, or you're worried about the future for your children or people that you know. You may have young children or friends or loved ones, anywhere from infancy to over age 100. They are all impacted by these concepts. My mom, at age 92, she often needs help with her online accounts, virtual doctor visits. I go on and get her MyChart health records. It's too much for her to keep up with. These concepts apply to everyone, both in our personal lives and also in our professional lives. So your red flag concerns will be addressed at the end with any questions, or they might even help us with ideas for future presentations if there's a topic that you really think you want to know more about. So our first concept. The first on the color wheel, and you'll notice I'm starting up with the blue, digital identity. It's blue on the color wheel. We all have a digital identity. As an avatar, you choose how you represent yourself in the metaverse. I bet you recognize me in that picture there, although that's my older avatar from a few years ago, and you probably recognize the person I'm sitting by. As an avatar, you represent yourself through your choices, and children are growing up in digital culture. They're familiar with digital identity, mostly through game characters, which are similar to avatars. One can role play with game characters and avatars, but it's essential to understand the difference between playing a role and being your authentic self. So I Googled this when I was preparing this talk, and when I Googled this concept, I ran into my own article with Renee Amico Brock. We wrote an article back in 2015 called Exemplifying Professional Avatar Creation Through Hermeneutical Phenomenology. And it was funny that I just stumbled upon that article. Renee, also known as Zinnia Zauber, many of you know she's done much work on avatar identity and authenticity. Here in the metaverse, you can choose to be completely transparent and reveal your physical world name and location, or you can be anonymous. I have met individuals here in Second Life who never tell who they are in the physical world. What does it mean? Well, I have learned to trust a couple of these anonymous avatars because of their work, because of the communities they're involved with, and their personalities that come through. But I raised this question because this is not going away, this spectrum of anonymity, and VWEC is working on more about that concept. The kids growing up today in virtual environments will need to figure out who they are and their purpose in life, their passions in life. This is part of digital citizenship. My 5th grade Minecraft club built a digital citizenship game to help teach younger kids digital citizenship. And I'm now working with my own grandson, who's age 7, to help him think about digital citizenship in online spaces and games. Here's a shot in this slide, and if you zoom in, you may recognize someone. A shot of myself and some other colleagues in the VR Exploder Club. We were exploring a virtual environment called Sign Space. Type a Y if you've ever been in Sign Space yourself. Most of us use the same name in all virtual worlds as educators. Some of you have heard of Sign Space and probably been there, and some of you might even be in this photo. You may recognize Sidearm is there in the photo, Bethany, Ellie, some other colleagues. Yes, the Glacier National Park in Sign Space. As the metaverse evolves, we might ask, so what is an avatar? And what is a game character? Well, as an educator, I've never viewed Second Life as a game because I didn't grow up as a gamer. Yet there can be games embedded right here in Second Life inside a virtual world. Whether we're playing a game or we're working, or perhaps we're doing both, there is a portmanteau word pushed together, playbor. You take the word play and you add the word labor, and some people use that word playbor for gamification. Whether you're working or playing, we are who we are. To be our authentic selves is important, and our digital identity should be authentic or we're fooling ourselves as well as other people. Moving on to the second concept, digital rights. Privacy is huge. It's the sort of a chartreuse green color. Digital rights and privacy. We have the right to be left alone and think for ourselves. Think what we want to think, don't we? We have the right to freedom of speech. We believe in the respect of intellectual property and giving credit to others for their work, don't we? But with big data tech companies mining our content, our images, our words, our purchasing choices, is privacy now dead? Is Big Brother watching? Has the book 1984 become our reality? I've often said, almost as a joke, that privacy died in 2008, because that's the year it really hit me that it was on shaky ground. With surveillance cameras all over the globe and cell phone videos commonplace shared live on social media, law enforcement often can solve crimes using captured video footage. We are being watched, and our phones let companies know our every move, even often when they're turned off. I sometimes think that Google knows more about me than I know about myself. Well, it can remember more anyway. The ads that we get on Amazon or many other sites are often exactly what we're looking for. Now, some people think this is a great time saver, but have you ever felt that it's a little creepy? I mean, just when you're talking about something, like perhaps you're talking with a friend about a current movie or show, and then you pick up your phone and there it is. Alexa is listening in, perhaps. Whatever you glance at on your device is mined, and then more like it comes your way. Privacy is a human right. Privacy needs legislation. Privacy is part of digital citizenship. And most importantly, digital citizenship is a personal responsibility. We can't stop these changes around us, and legislation is often slow. Very, very slow. In fact, many of the devices and applications that we have placed in the hands of our children, we've placed them there without realizing the consequences, nor the laws needed to protect us. If you have recently watched congressional hearings with the big tech companies, you realize that we need to be aware of the consequences of privacy concerns and digital citizenship, and we really need to work together to limit them. There is legislation underway. Legislators are looking at the core principles of privacy and data protection, and these include public transparency for users and all parties, disclosure for users. That's the information obtained by these applications or third parties. Control, and that means do not track without consent options. Notification, which is the violations or breaches are promptly reported. And this comes from a research article in 2018 by Isaac and Hannah. But for kids, a really great site I like to recommend for parents and educators to help the youngest of our digital citizens is commonsensemedia.org. I was able to get my elementary school certified by Common Sense Media as a Common Sense school because they provide curriculum and they help teachers and parents. I'll give a list of links at the end of the talk today. Now, some of the terms that I'm using, which can get confusing, they don't really matter exactly what you call them because we can all agree digital culture has made digital citizenship necessary. And talking about it helps us find consistent language. We all want our students, and really everyone else too, to respect intellectual property, give credit when it's due. So here in the metaverse, we look up to the amazing content creators and artists and builders of these beautiful simulations. And now with the rise of artificial intelligence, there are concerns about who is creating content, where it originates. Here's another picture that I created with AI, this cute little AI robot. And I'll drop here one of the many sites that are coming out recently to help us cite our sources using AI. AI is currently a hot topic and will influence digital citizenship. The next concept this leads us to is digital literacy, which includes content creation and critical thinking. I mentioned that most content is born digital. Well, we are all creating it. Evaluation of content is really difficult in the sea of online chaos. And critical thinking is essential. We all need to practice thinking for ourselves and teaching the next generation how to be good learners and critical thinkers. I love this slide. I often use it. I've probably showed it to you before. It's Alvin Toffler. He was a futurist. He coined the term prosumer. It's a portmanteau of two words mashed together. Take the word consumer and the word producer, you put those two words together, producer, consumer, you get prosumer. That's what we are now. We are both producing and consuming media. We're all prosumers, even the youngest of us who create on platforms, little kindergartners that create on Scratch Junior or in Minecraft. Those terms together, producer and consumer, make prosumer. And Alvin Toffler first said this in his book, The Third Wave, in 1980, in reference to the information age following the Industrial Revolution. Millions of us producing and uploading content nonstop every single day has led to too much information. Do you ever feel like it's a flood, a nonstop feed of incoming that's impossible to keep up with? Well, maybe that's because it is impossible to keep up with. Evaluating online sites and content is so difficult, and our goal must be to help everyone from young to old to think critically about this. What's it going to be like in the future? The orange part of the wheel, this concept is digital communication. Oh, wow, has communication changed? The way we communicate now is often born digital too. We have teenagers who would rather text than talk out loud. And emojis, they're now considered a language. We're all leaving our digital footprints. We create our own personal dashboard on our devices with personally chosen apps. Your phone looks a lot different than my phone. We're vaguely aware of the perils of social media, but we feel it is mandatory to use it. Evaluation of resources, as I have repeatedly said, is extremely difficult in a divided world, which some are now calling a post-truth world because most information is user-generated content and not presented by experts. So let's think about digital footprints. When you Google yourself, what do you find? I asked a group of fourth grade parents at a parent-teacher meeting, I asked them, at what age do you think that students begin to create digital footprints? Think about that. What age do you think they might? Many of them said around 13, because that's when you can apply for many apps and online services. But think about that for a moment. A lot of them said age 9, fourth grade. But take a look at this next slide. Many parents post pictures online sharing a sonogram as they excitedly announce the upcoming birth of their unborn child. The digital citizen in this picture has footprints that were posted before the child was born. Does this raise a concern about oversharing online? Social media platforms have been brought before Congress in hearings that address bullying, suicide, child porn, and abduction, among many other concerns. And we live our lives lost in a million apps. With all this incoming information, we rarely find factual information, but we're constantly bombarded by emotionally charged opinions before we can actually find the facts about anything newsworthy. Digital communication may provide easy global networking, but it's not without tremendous problems. And one of the biggest challenges that we face is actually a natural one. Confirmation bias. We all come by it naturally. We want to surround ourselves with people who think like us, with people who share our values and agree with our opinions. In social media, however, we tend to curate a group of like-minded people, but this leads to confirmation bias in a big way. We confirm our beliefs and we become narrow-minded, not open to new ideas. And that's not how we learn. We learn through collision of ideas. Read Lev Vygotsky's work if you want more on that. We learn through collision of ideas, and the art of debate is perhaps becoming devalued. And now there's very little time for us to revise and reflect on our own ideas and our communication as we move on to the next incoming message. These are concerns about digital communication. So pause for a minute and think. Here we are in the metaverse. Where are all the great simulations and communities in the metaverse? Who creates the content? I feel hopeful as a metaverse librarian that we can work together to combat some of these issues by respecting each other and by embracing digital citizenship. We're working right here at VWEC to create directories for members, databases, directories of communities and simulations of high quality. We can't really solve all the dilemmas that digital culture present to us, but we can be aware of how to navigate them by working together. On our devices, we scroll through our disposable media, but here in the metaverse, we interact with our communities in real time in a real persistent space. Look at the slide, disposable media versus persistent space. Now, this is not to say that the metaverse is more valuable than the physical world, not at all. Nor is this to say that apps are not purposeful. They certainly can be. The point is, the metaverse has arrived, the children are already there, mostly slaying zombies, and we better understand how to use it. Together we can find ways to address these issues, and the sort of orange-red color concept on the color wheel, and you can see that over there to the side, is digital emotional intelligence. Mental health problems have escalated, especially with teenagers on social media. The importance of building empathy has become clear. Building real relationships in digital spaces is important, but that's not always easy. Balancing the physical and the virtual is a meta-modern, meta-literacy skill. And these are all parts of emotional intelligence in digital culture. Teens on social media report bullying and many problems with their self-esteem as they're learning to find out who they are in the world. Young women often compete on Instagram for the so-called prettiest life. And with their phones beside them all through the day and often all through the night, teens often experience FOMO, fear of missing out. Something exciting is happening out there and I'm not part of it. FOMO is caused by feelings of anxiety with the idea that an exciting experience or important opportunity is being missed. Social media can be self-promoting. Young people often feel anxiety and tend to spend more time editing their lives through taking selfies and through using photo editing apps than they actually do living it. Social media transformed advertising and gave birth to the term influencers. That's a term describing the goal of many young people today. To be an influencer, these kids believe, is to be famous and valued. But famous and valued for what contribution? I do not want them to be influenced, but rather to be informed as a critical thinker. I highly recommend Tristan and Asa's documentary, The Social Dilemma, if you're interested in the harms that social media have brought on. This is from the Center for Humane Tech. Let's look at the hot pink concept, digital security. This is on the color wheel. Understanding the tech companies and all of the apps that they provide for us, both software and hardware, and how to use them securely. This is important. Most companies require registration with an email and a birth date. Have you ever lied about that to fool the tech company? Well, I actually saw teachers do that right in front of their students. Here's what the teacher would say. Oh, here it says you need to be 13, but we can just put in a different birth date. I saw teachers do that in front of their class. Now, what kind of role modeling as a digital citizenship is that? And are you worried about viruses and hackers? Do you read the terms of service before you accept? They're written in this long legal language. Nobody actually understands it, so we click I agree and justify it. All of my colleague friends are using this app. And also, how about this question? Did you need a password when you were 5 years old? The world has changed. And a 5-year-old does need to remember their password now. Some guidelines for all of us regarding digital security are, of course, creating strong passwords. We teach that now to young children. Using authentication apps has also become a second layer of security. Understanding virus protection has become important for everyone. And keeping our devices and operating systems up to date is important. Elderly senior citizens come to me with these concerns all the time. They forgot their password. They're scared to death of hackers. This is just where we live. And note on the pink, another very similar concern is digital safety, a similar color. This element addresses our own understanding of our own safety online, both personally and professionally. This includes our behaviors and our attitudes. For example, taking a questioning stance when we encounter information, not just trusting everything blindly, being aware of phishing scams, for example. And I know teachers sometimes and librarians think, are we having to tell kids not to trust anything? Well, we are. That's our world now. That's our digital world. When I grew up, we heard about stranger danger, and my mom told me never take candy from someone that you don't know. Well, today, kids learn about online stranger danger. And here's another AI picture from Midjourney. And this one was created with that same kind of a prompt about digital culture. I find it a little creepy, but it illustrates that our devices do present dangers. Our final concept, as we've moved around the color wheel into the blue area, to the deeper sort of purpley blue, lavender, is digital use. And this includes limiting our screen time. I'm very happy that my son and daughter-in-law are trying to limit the screen time of my 7-year-old grandson. Kids today have to figure out how to balance their physical world and playing outside and planting things and playing sports with their online life. The many apps, a lot of apps now promote this. You probably have seen on your phone, there's limit your screen time apps. There's the Calm app that was like the app of the year a couple of years ago. Different things to help us balance. Our digital health is under digital use. Our online virtual doctor visits and MyChart, a lot of our health applications are now born digital. And what's the impact of the internet on our lives? Also, this element presents the idea of community participation. How many communities can we actually engage with in all of the apps and environments that we're involved in? Is it possible to keep up with our thousands of contacts? Are our social media friends really friends? I think perhaps we should call them contacts, unless we limit the number. And Sidearm here introduced me to Dunbar's number. You can look that up later. Dunbar is a researcher that believes the human brain can only deal with a certain number of contacts. Using digital devices and virtual spaces has become prevalent for us all. And the concept of balancing the virtual and the physical is particularly critical for youth. And yes, Faust is right, that number is 150. Thinking about digital use, multiple realities are now part of literacy: physical, virtual, and augmented. There are now so many names for literacy, it gets confusing. Digital, media literacy, traditional literacy, audiovisual literacy, print literacy. And in addition to the ones I listed there, we have health literacy, civic literacy. All of these types of literacy, to me, make me think of the word meta-literacy. Perhaps they all play into the need for thinking about literacy in digital culture. You can find out more about that term that I often use, meta-literacy, at metaliteracy.org. I've done numerous presentations on that topic, and I've even had avatars with Marley, who created the idea of symbolic modeling. I've had avatars build symbolic models on how they feel about changing literacy. It's a very powerful tool. Thomas Mackey and Trudy Jacobson coined this term, meta-literacy. And Tom Mackey wrote the foreword to my meta-modernism book. I did write something on a guest blog post on the meta-literacy blog. You can find it there if you're interested in more about yourself as a meta-literate individual. All this talk about changing literacy from reading and writing in the past to a plethora of formats for prosumers requires juggling. It's become a balancing act. If you zoom in on the balanced rocks on my slides here, you'll see AR, VR, the metaverse, social media, videos, podcasts, blogs, movies, websites, databases, on and on and on. We need meta-literacy in our meta-modern times. We oscillate between worlds, between formats. We're not all on the same page. And maybe we don't even know what a page is anymore. It can be overwhelming, this sea of chaos. It can feel like there's a storm coming. Perhaps that's a good analogy because we don't know where AI is heading. We don't know how to teach young people how to navigate in ever-changing information landscapes. So I'm bringing this storm to you right now. It's going to rain, people. It's raining. Do you hear it? Do you feel the rain? It's coming down. The storm is invisible. It's not really making your avatar wet, but the rain of it is real. Will we keep our humanity in the metaverse? Will we keep our humanity as AI apps and AI buddies are going to be surrounding us very soon? Are we becoming cyborgs? Is the human brain changing? And some experts believe it actually is. Perhaps our only hope for the next generation, and I believe it is to understand and embrace digital citizenship. That may protect them, and that may protect us all. So I think I need to drop you all a digital citizenship umbrella. Now, when I give this to you, be sure to choose add. You don't want to wear it because that could be a problem. Here it comes. When you get your digital citizenship umbrella in your inventory, you can choose add. So let's get our digital citizenship umbrellas out to remind us that together we can find the tools that we need. We can understand all of these concepts, even though they may seem a bit overwhelming. Now, I do have, and just pull my slide out here. I do want to mention that future research is needed for all age groups to understand digital citizenship. The information revolution has changed literacy forever. It happened on my watch as a librarian. That was pretty fun and cool. We live in a fascinating, fast-paced time, no matter what it's called. And perhaps the consensus will be to adopt the name metamodernism. We shall see. But whatever it's called, we all know it's changed. I've got a few references here for you. And I will mention where the Center for Humane Tech is. There's a great documentary called The Social Dilemma, and also a documentary on artificial intelligence that I highly recommend, and a few other links to the DQ Institute, Common Sense Media. Also, Mike Ribble, who a long time ago came up with a whole lot of concepts of digital citizenship, and he's participated with me on Twitter for some online Twitter chats over the years. So there's a few more links for you there. So I hope this presentation makes you ask yourself, are you a good digital citizen? Am I a good digital citizen? Thank you for having me, and I'm going to turn the mic back over to our host, Marie, and our co-host, John. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Val. You've given us a lot to think about, and I want to thank the audience for coming and wearing your umbrellas. I hope we got some good pictures of that because that's pretty amazing. Just a reminder, you should be able to find a recording of today's presentation on the VWEC YouTube channel, which I have put into the chat. And we will be having our next expert event on Friday, February 23rd at 1 p.m. SLT, when we are going to be joined by Rand Heinrichs. And there's a poster up here to show you, give you some information on that. And if you want to see all the VWEC events, please check out the VWEC Plaza Events calendar at the link I've put in the chat. And here's a link to our YouTube channel. And you can join us on social media at the link at the YouTube link there, or the Twitter channel, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're all over the place. We're also in Discord on the Second Life server under Pound Education. So please join us for our Friday happy hour at the other end of the deck when we're done. And if you have questions, please either put them in the chat or you can go for a microphone. So the question in the chat from Faust is, have you run into anything on digital media and well-being?
Yes, there is a lot of research about well-being and digital media. For me, a good starting place is the awareness. If you read any of Sherry Turkle's work, it really helps you understand how we can balance the need for balance of our virtual lives and online lives and our physical life. And also, another research for the younger generation is a really good book by Marianne Wolf called Dear Reader, Come Home. What the internet, and it's about how the internet has changed our brain. And it really helps you realize how to balance your life. It's all about the balance and not getting sucked in, sucked into too much digital life and not enough physical life. So there's a place to start. And I'd also recommend Virtual Ability Island, which is a place in the virtual world to think about your physical health and well-being. We have many community groups here that do talks on that all the time. So you can contact me later if you're looking for an individual that might help you with that.
So did you see the second part where is how central is well-being to digital citizenship?
I think it's very central. If you don't have digital citizenship, it is going to harm you physically. And there's no doubt in my mind. In fact, I know a person that got so sucked into Candy Crush on a cell phone that they actually had eye problems. I mean, there's your emotional intelligence and your physical health can be impacted by a lack of digital citizenship. Absolutely.
So
I was
another
getting it.
question is, how do we solve the question of trustworthy information?
Well, okay, I don't know why I suddenly stood up. I'll stand. Um, I think that is a really difficult question to answer because, and if you go to the meta literacy blog, you'll find out a lot of people believe we now live in a post-truth world. The news is not the news anymore. The news is an opinion on how you should interpret facts that are coming out. So, so it's really important for you to not only look at one source. It used to be that there were gatekeepers and facts were checked several times before that they were put on any particular platform, and that's not true anymore. It's so fast that things come out before they're verified, and there's very little time to verify what's true. So the only way that you can is by going back and going to multiple different sides of a story. That's the only way that it's possible to do that. So that's why you can't. I know, like some people only get their news off of social media, which is it's just impossible to get the truth on social media. You will have to go outside of it and go to several other sources.
So Julia says, I like your comments on privacy. There are some of us, many of us actually, who can never mix our virtual personage with our private real world ones. And Marley is asking, how do people of different generations find a common language to communicate about digital life?
Oh, that's a good question, Marley. I deal with senior citizens a lot. I work with technology with them. And the thing I tell them is, it's not you. They're always like, I feel really dumb because I don't even know all the people talk so fast with all this new terms, and I don't understand the terms. And I tell them, it's not you. It's that all of this has changed too quickly, and the terms have changed too quickly. I just help them figure out the few things they really want to do on their cell phone or on their device. You don't have to know everything. In fact, none of us possibly can anymore. It used to be, and I talked to an 85-year-old woman about this, it used to be you learned through a linear hierarchy and you mastered a concept and then you knew it. That's what toppled. There is no mastery anymore. Just when you figure out your operating system, here comes upgrade number 7.5. Just when you figure out this really great app, that one's over. There's a new app. So we don't learn the way we used to learn. And for the elderly, that is hard because their brains do not work that way. So the best way to talk to them is to tell them it's not you. Do not worry about it. You know, do not worry about it. Now, my grandson's growing up in a world there was always been virtual and digital, and their brain is just used to it. But anyone that was, that was born before the internet, my son and daughter do remember a world before the internet. But so it's like, it's very generational. And I would love to I started writing a book on this topic, but I'm so committed to VWEC, I don't have time to write. But I would love an intergenerational book on how every different generation, from the millennials to, the traditionalists, all the different generations have different needs when it comes to changing literacy.
So there's also a discussion about Wikipedia in the chat. Dolly says that Wikipedia is a pretty good tool to find out what's real and true, and it's footnoted. And Uncle Ray says I rely on Wikipedia. Um, so
Sure.
what do you think about Wikipedia?
Yes, Wikipedia, it's really pretty amazing. And it's so funny, as a librarian, I remember print encyclopedias. And I remember when we stopped, no more dictionaries, no more encyclopedias. And Wikipedia can be a great first stop because everything's on there. The problem with Wikipedia, and it's the same problem really that applies to all of digital culture, is that there's there's going to be a longer page about a porn star than there is going to be about the guy that invented some cure for a rare disease. You know, it's everything is popularity oriented rather than quality oriented. So you have to dig deep to find the quality information, and it's real easy to skim and find the popular information. So it's a good starting point, but you're going to have to dig deep.
And Marley says she's concerned that parents do not have the kinds of discussions with their kids that help them with values, what's important, when their life is about. And um, Julia mentions that in her generations, in her 30s, has a real disconnect with with the older generations. Um, and then she also said because they see a stuck in the mud and a reluctance to change.
Yes, these are all problems that I'm certainly familiar with because I work with all generations. As I said, from the young ones like my grandson, he's so good at all these digital tools, to the elderly that are frustrated and feel completely left out, and the inability to communicate between these generations. And I can't sit here and give you a real quick one-stop answer, because I think one of you just said in the chat that there are a lot of people who don't know how to teach the next generation. They don't even understand these concepts on the wheel. They're, they get overwhelmed by all those concepts, but they're impacted by them. This relates to everybody from age 1 to over 100. They're all impacted by it, but they don't understand what the words mean. I mean, that's kind of scary. I mean, it changed so fast, and it's continuing to change every day. So I can't give you a quick answer. All I can tell you is we need digital citizenship, and we need to help people understand what it is. At my son's elementary school now, not my son's, my grandson's, I went into the school library to volunteer, to put a few books away, and they're not teaching digital citizenship. What they've done is they just said, well, we just gave it to all the classroom teachers, and they can just teach it. They don't know how to teach it. They've got lesson plans, parent conferences, testing issues. I know what it's like to be a teacher. They don't have time to teach all these concepts. It's slipping through the gaps everywhere, So each individual one of you sitting here as an avatar, you can try to understand it and help the people around you understand it. But it's not going to be a quick fix, because it's everywhere. It's impacted all of us, and people don't really realize it. That's why Facebook and all of these big tech companies are before Congress. We're trying to backtrack now and make the laws that should have been made 20 years ago to help kids. It's a little late. So, don't ask me how to give you the answers. I'm just raising the questions so that you can be a critical thinker, so the next generation can become critical thinkers. It's in their hands.
So we're kind of past time now. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Val, again, it was a really thought-provoking presentation, and we can stand up and go over to get some goodies and continue the conversation if you would like. But let's give Val a big hand again, and um, thank you very much.